Okay, so I want to talk real quick about the most recent developer version of Opera. And this is a browser that, given its market share, um, evidently most people aren't all that familiar with. It's one of the more obscure ones. Most people are using Chrome or Firefox, Internet Explorer, that kind of thing. But Opera has always been one that if you're curious about where browser development's going, you are familiar with it. And you keep an eye on it. And I test for them. It's not my main browser. It's not the one that I use day in, day out, all day kind of a thing. But it has always been one that I have had installed on my computer and have kept current and will use for a little bit here and there, continually, just to keep current on what's going on with it. And the reason why is because they have led a lot of the development in browsers. There's a lot of features that you take for granted in Chrome, Firefox, and other browsers that actually began in Opera. I mean, they've always, like I said, they've for years and years and years been pretty much on the bleeding edge of development of browser, technology or whatever you want to call it. And the latest thing that they have introduced in this browser is, I think, pretty exciting, and it's definitely something interesting, and it's going to be something that I'm going to be keeping my eye on, and I think a lot of other people are going to be keeping their eye on too, and especially people that develop some of these other browsers like Chrome and Firefox and others, because this is pretty interesting what they've done with this. Now you can actually see here that right there, that's it right there. Our newest version now with built-in ad blocking. Now, a lot of the other browsers, in fact, I may be safe in saying all of the other browsers, depend on third-party software, and for you to install third-party software to block ads. And examples of the third-party software, and there's different names that these things go by: add-ons, extensions, whatever you know it by. It's a third-party thing that you're putting on your computer or into your browser that's supposed to block ads. And examples are the one I'm most familiar with: Adblock Plus. Those. What Opera has done is they have built in the ad blocking, so you're not having to put third-party software, you're not having to add an extension, an add-on, whatever you want to call it, into the browser itself. It is built in, and that is, near as I'm aware, pretty revolutionary, and it's extremely cool. Now, before I get into the performance differences, that gets you in page load times and things like that, I am going to address, because I don't want people to think that I'm not being complete in the information that I'm giving people or something. There are good reasons to block ads. That there's a benefit to blocking ads, and then there's also a way in which it can be harmful. So for us, for you and I, for people that are just browsing the internet, that are just using the internet, we're not content providers, we're just browsing the internet, it's generally speaking a benefit to block ads, because, for one thing, in my experience, it keeps you safer. Having no ad blocker at all, and letting the ad content and all that run, in my experience, has exposed me to malware. So if you're blocking those ads, if you're blocking the scripts and all that run the ads and everything else, then there's no way that those pop-ups and things like that you go and you go to click OK to close the window, or you click cancel or whatever, and sometimes in clicking those buttons that will come up in that pop-up or pop under window, in some cases it'll be not a pop-up but a pop under, you actually end up, in clicking that, it's not really an OK button, it ends up downloading something onto your computer, and that something can be a virus in itself, or it's like some obscure weird toolbar that opens up a port that is used or exploited to download a virus onto your computer, that kind of thing. So there's generally speaking, you're safer if you're blocking these ads, because ads aren't just an annoyance. Most cases they are just an annoyance, but not always. Sometimes it's actually a serious security risk. The flip side of this coin is that most of the content that you're using, where that you're going to see these ads, that content's being provided for free, right? So you're going to that site and you're wanting to be able to access that site and see the content and all on that site without having to pay a subscription fee. And the way that you're able to do that is because they get money to pay for the site, to pay the people that provide the content on the site through ads. That's how they get the money to do all that. And if you're blocking all of those ads, they're not getting the revenue from advertising, which can mean that the content on the site suffers. And then they end up with the site either failing, or the quality of the content of the site declines, or the site fails, or they have to go to a subscription fee for the site, which means that you're no longer to access it for free, obviously, and all that. So there's two sides of that coin, and I personally say block all the damn ads. Now, the reason why I say that is because I have gone to sites where you go to the site, and if you're running an ad blocker, it'll say, we detected an ad blocker is running, please disable your ad blocker. And sometimes they don't restrict any of the content, you can still access all the content, and then other times they'll actually block you from even getting into the site at all if you're running an ad blocker. So if you want to see the content, you actually have to disable the ad blocker. In any case, I will have, in the past I've done this, disable the ad blocker. It's just kind of a good faith thing, because I understand that, yep, they're providing content I want to see, and the only way that they're able to do that is if they get money through advertising. I want to support the site because it's got content I like, so I'm going to disable the ad blocker. And when I've done that, I've had it come back to bite me in the rear, because what ends up happening is umpteen pop-ups start opening up, or pop-unders start opening up, and those then try to install a virus onto my computer. You get the thing that I was talking about you get the OK button or the cancel button or whatever, and you go and you click that, and then it tries to download something on your computer, and it turns out that that's actually a Trojan. And I've had this happen several different times, so this isn't a fluke. It's not something that's unique to one site. It's not something that's unique to just me. This is something that is a systemic problem, and I say block all the damn ads, because, look, if you are allowing someone to advertise on your site, if you're allowing banner ads and other things, it's incumbent upon you, if you're wanting people to not block those ads, that you make sure that you're not exposing them to some sort of a risk. And if you're not going to do that, and most of these sites don't do that, then guess what? I'm going to block all the damn ads. And so that's why I'm saying to you, in my opinion, the smartest thing to do is block all of the damn ads. Now, moving on to this browser here. This is a developer version of the browser. This is bleeding edge of the bleeding edge. I mean, this is so it can be buggy, and all kinds of things. So, should you use this as your main browser? Not if you're wanting it to, not if you're needing assured dependability. If you're wanting to play around and experiment, that's one thing. But if you're trying to do, like business and stuff like that, maybe you don't want to use this as your main browser. So I just want to also give that little disclaimer. So the first thing you're going to do once you've installed this, and this is the link here, and it's been sitting right there for several minutes while I've been talking, www.opera.com/developer. You're just going to download it and install it the same way you would anything else. And I'll just, like I said up here, www.opera.com/developer. Just to give you time to get that so that you can download it. And I'll try and put that also in, if I can remember to, in the comment on the video. So one of the other things you can see too is that when you hover over a tab, you get a tab preview, which I also like. That's pretty unique too. I don't know of many other browsers that do that. So once you've installed it, you need to be sure that you have the ad blocking feature and all turned on. So you're going to go to menu, and you're going to come down here and you're going to go to settings, and then it's going to open up this page here. And you just check that. In my case, it wasn't checked by default, and I had to actually do it. So you do want to check and be sure that that's actually enabled. Once that is enabled, go to any old site. Now, I will say too, forgot to mention, go to settings. Forgot to mention this. You see down here where it says manage exceptions, there is a whitelist for this, and it's not that big of a whitelist. Most sites are going to have their ads and things blocked. So you can also add to this whitelist if you want to. Also, you just add the URL in there if you want to whitelist a site. You can also obviously take them off and just go over here and click the X, and it'll delete that from the whitelist. So there is a whitelist on that. But you go when you open a site. In this case, we've got foxnews.com up, and the reason why I'm using a news site is because, generally speaking, these media sites will have a load, just a massive load of ad content. So you come up here to the top right of the page, and you see this little blue shield with a white X over it. You're going to click that, and it says ads are blocked on this site. If the ads are not blocked, you see that shield, and it's just white. So we want to actually block the ads. Okay. Now this is the ads that it's blocked in total. Okay. This isn't the ads on the site. This is the ads on the site. This number down here, the 1333, that's the ads that the browser has blocked in total. There's 37 ads just on this site alone. Now this is where it's interesting to see the performance difference. We're going to tell it to run the speed test with and without ads. And so this is self-explanatory. It's going to load this page with the ads, and it gives you a stopwatch down here. And it says it's taking it 10.94 seconds to load the page with the ads. And without ads, it takes it 4.6 seconds to load. And then up here at the top, it actually gives you a percentage of speed increase or decrease. And just full disclosure here, some sites, for whatever reason, actually take longer to load when the ads are blocked. I don't know why, but some sites do take longer to load when ads are blocked. Generally speaking, though, that's not the case. Generally speaking, the sites actually are faster to load. But it tells you up here, speed test, 58% faster without ads. And just, feel free, once you've downloaded this, obviously, to kind of play around. Run this speed test on some of the sites that you go to a lot and see what kind of performance increase you get. I'm not going to do but just this one site in the interest of time, but that's how that works. And just to kind of recap that, you go to whatever site it is that you're wanting to go to. You go up here to the shield. You make sure that the ads are turned on. Ad blocking is turned on if you want it to. If you want it turned off, you switch it off. And then down here, you see speed test with and without ads if you want to run a speed test on it and see. It does not close the tab, so you don't have to worry about having to click back and try and find the site again. It just opens up a new tab with the speed test. And that's how that works. Pretty straightforward and pretty simple. One of the other things you just saw me do too is you notice I didn't click an X to click that. One of the other things that Opera innovated years ago is mouse gestures. So what I did to close that was I held down my right mouse button, and I basically just make an L shape. I come down, holding the mouse button, or the right mouse button down the whole time, and I just draw an L, and that's the mouse gesture to close the tab. And I can close this one too the same way. So that's the developer version of Opera with built-in ad blocking, and I'm pretty excited about that. This is a hugely interesting thing, and it's going to be really interesting. Not to be redundant, not to sound redundant, but it's going to be interesting to see how this built-in ad blocking carries forward. Does this become something that other browsers adopt, or do content providers and all of that push back against it and it just kind of gets left by the wayside? Or do you end up with a sort of arms race where, yeah, the built-in ad blocking in browsers catches on, but you end up with content providers figuring out ways around it, and then you see this kind of escalation to try and one up each other. People that are wanting to block the ads coming up with better ways of blocking ads, and people that are wanting to provide content that subsists on ads figuring out ways of getting around blocking ads. So it'll be interesting to see what this leads to. But yeah, that's the developer version of Opera with built-in ad blocking. Really interesting thing, and I would suggest that, even if just for curiosity's sake, download that and try it and see what kind of performance gain that gets you. And also, as far as that goes, see if it helps you keep yourself more secure as you're browsing, particularly if you're not used to using ad blockers. I took it as a given that most people used ad blockers, but I found out today in reading a news story somewhere that most people actually do not use ad blockers. If you use an ad blocker, you're actually a minority, and that kind of surprised me because I just figured that most people didn't want to have these ads going, and so most people blocked them. But evidently that's not true. Evidently most people do not block ads. But in particular, if you're not used to blocking ads, try this and see what that gets you, and it may lead you to decide that in other browsers that you use as your main browser, if you don't want to use this one as your main browser, that you do want to add one of those extensions like Adblock Plus or what have you to block ads, to keep you safer, to make your pages load faster, that kind of thing. So give it a try and comment back on this video with what your experience with this was, whether you like Opera or not, particularly this developer version, and if you notice any kind of a performance increase for yourself on the sites that you go to from having the ads blocked natively by the browser.